Good evening. I'm Regina Shearer, host of the Winning Women Talk Show. I'm so glad that you have joined us this evening for another edition of the Winning Women Talk Show. As you know, each and every week, we do our very best to present a woman sharing her journey to fulfilling her passion and being successful, and success not necessarily meaning making lots of money, but doing that something that you're passionate about, that gives you fulfillment, that brings pleasure and happiness to your life, but also and eventually ends up blessing someone else's life, giving someone else the benefit of the work that she does. And so I hope that if you've been following us for a while, you've been enjoying the stories you've heard, the journeys that have been shared, and listening to some of the challenges and obstacles that they've encountered. Because these are not the women who are celebrities and on television and in movies. These are women that you might find standing in the grocery line with you, and you have no clue that she's doing incredible and phenomenal things. And I hope you have enjoyed the stories, the journeys, and listening to how they overcame the obstacles to getting to their career goals, what fulfills them, and to being able to fulfill their own personal career passions. As you know, we love to have you join us every week, and you are welcome to call us or email us because we love to hear from you. The phone in number is 781-384-5587. I'll say that again, 781-384-5587. And for those of you who are viewing, you can see it there on the screen. And if you're phone shy, feel free to email me, Regina at rgbinternetradio.com. It's just that simple, Regina at rgbinternetradio.com. Um, this week, we have a special guest, me, because this is the time of year when so much is going on. And I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of people are dealing with things such as school breaks across this nation, at least. A lot of states, their students are out of school this week in public school systems. Colleges are preparing for graduations. Seniors are celebrating who are about to graduate. In high school, seniors are getting ready in the same way and attending and doing all kinds of things. And for all these things that our young people are invested in, um, that means parents and adults are off as well, or have to be doing double duty to keep them entertained as well as attend to their work. In addition to that, a lot of people have been engaged in fundraising, and especially in running 5Ks and longer runs to raise funds for their special organizations. And being here in New England, one of the big events at this time of year is the Boston Marathon. And I know that many of you are familiar with the Boston Marathon because every year people come from every state in this nation, as well as countries all around the world. And so on this year, we had our 130th Boston Marathon. And believe it or not, there were 24,000 runners, because that's the number. There were 29,000 some odd number of people who applied. Only 24,000 were admitted, meeting all the qualifications, the qualifiers to be in the race, but 24,000 from all 50 states, as well as 118 countries. What a diverse population, and what a large group of runners on this large 26K, 26-mile run called the Boston Marathon. This year, I was pleased to observe some people that I knew running in the marathon. But what I wanted, what brought to my attention was the number of women, because each year there are more and more women running in the Boston Marathon. And so I thought, since it was very difficult to get someone to be on the show because of all the many things going on, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to tell you a little bit about some of the women who have run in the Boston Marathon, some of the history behind women running in the marathon, and of course to talk about the marathon woman who won this year, who won for the a second year in a row, 2 years straight. Her name is Sharon Lokedi. She's from Kenya, and she has won 2 years in a row. Last year she set a record. This year she was a little off, a minute, less than a minute actually, off of that record. But 2 years in a row, she still has set a record for the women's competition in this marathon. And for the men's competition, John Career, who is also Kenyan, won for the second year in a row as well, um, and won, breaking his previous record, which was the record. And it's just amazing. John's record was 2 minutes, 2 hours, 1 minute, and 52 seconds. And Sharon's was 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 51 seconds. That's 2 hours, even if it's almost three, that's a very short amount of time to run 26 miles. It just amazes me. It boggles my mind to think that anyone can run, first of all, that distance without stopping, taking a nap or something, and also run it in such a speed. Um, so I wanted to share with you about women who are part of the history of running in competitive races, and especially the Boston Marathon. But also, I wanted to give you a little, I guess, biological information, because I was just curious, why is it that men can run faster? Now, the obvious thing is they have a different muscle builds, and their muscle mass is much higher than women's. And of course, their testosterone levels are high. And both of those things, between muscle mass and the testosterone levels that are at work, they have strength and speed that give them an edge. Now, I'm not saying that a woman can't outrun a man, but I'm saying in general. But I was just curious why they always have the women's competition and the men's competition. And, I understand there are some physical and biological difference. For instance, men have larger hearts, they have larger lungs, so that oxygen efficiency is much higher. The oxygen delivery is better. They have, most men, not all, but in general, especially if they're runners, they have lower body fat than women, and they have lean muscle. Women, we don't need to be ashamed of body fat, because for what we do and how our bodies function, we need some of that fat for very deliberate and understandable reasons. And then the stride lengths between men and women can vary substantially, with men having longer stride lengths than women. And it's just running mechanics in general. So some of those are factors that come into play when we're talking about these long distance races. But that's not to say that women can't, if they were in a competition with men, couldn't possibly win. I just was curious as to why there was a separation. And I can understand it. It's intended to bring equity into the winning results and the competitive challenges that exist. So I wanted to share that with you. I also want to remind you again, if you want to call in or email and share your thoughts or any comments you would like to make, I would love to hear from you. And so please, as I go through and share some of this information this evening, please feel free to call at 781-384-5587 or email me, Regina at rgbinternetradio.com. So running history is pretty much a colorful tapestry of achievements by both men and women. But here's something you may not have known: women were only allowed to register to run marathons as recent as 1972. So we haven't been a part of all of the marathons that have gone on throughout history. And 1972 is about right, because that's when the feminist movement really became rampant and started making a difference. We had the women's ERA and other feminist organizations started challenging stereotypes, started challenging uh, rules and regulations, started challenging work protocols, and a lot of things. And so female history holds barrier breaking triumphs and gender gap. What would you call it? Busting bravery, I guess. Because we, from the 70s on, we have been making headway in establishing our right to do a lot of things that were once typically thought of as male only um, positions of work, career paths, leadership roles, et cetera, et cetera. In 1873, a Harvard medical professor, his name is Edward Clark, he published a book called Sex and Education, A Fair Chance for the Girls. That was the name of the book. Sex and Education, A Fair Chance for the Girls. And it was a book that claimed women shouldn't study for more than 4 hours a day. And physical activity had they had to be careful because it led to ovarian atrophy or some of the ovarian issues that women have dealt with. So he manipulated science to spread false narratives that women shouldn't be athletes or even equals to male athletes, and or equals to males, period. And that kind of thinking created years of roadblocks for female athletes. And again, remember, this is 1873 when this was when he started promoting this. I'll just call it propaganda. But even that first year that women were allowed to compete in the Olympics, which was 1900, they were left out of the running category, and they were designated to just specific types of Olympic events like tennis, sailing, croquet, golf, and equestrianism. So in 1928, the rules were changed. One woman, Betty Robinson, stepped out onto the Olympic track and became one of the first to break records and female conventions around athletics. Her name was Elizabeth Betty Robinson. She was the only U.S. athlete to qualify for the 100-meter dash at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. That was the very first games women were allowed to compete in Amsterdam. And at just 16, that's the age she was, she won the female heat with a time of 12.2 seconds, but was still considered an inaugural champion because of her gender. And it doesn't discount the fact that she still was the first woman to win a gold medal in track and field because of the 100-meter dash in 12.2 seconds. But she didn't get that full blown hoopla, um, applause and accolade and recognition that men would get, even though she won a gold medal. And again, that was Elizabeth Betty Robinson. And she stepped out, the first U.S. woman, in particular, but woman, to step out onto an Olympic track. So we have to give her kudos for not only winning the gold medal, but also for opening the doors for women to start to be able to qualify and compete in athletic competitions like the Olympics. So I found that interesting. 1928. So it took a while. And if you do the math, that wasn't too long ago, right? Because we're coming up on 2028 soon. So less than 100 years. But finally, a woman got into the Olympics. She opened that door and set that course for us. Okay, let me take this call. Good evening. You are on the Winning Women Talk Show. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Regina. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, I love that you're talking about this subject because I was actually able to go to the marathon briefly on Monday, and having been a runner when I was in high school, I was really excited to see the runners. I wanted to experience what it was like when they were whizzing by. So I went briefly, took a few photos, and I just love that they were being cheered on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I didn't know until I got home was that is it Sunita Williams, the astronaut, the woman who had just come
Yes.
back from
Yeah. Right.
not the recent trip with I forgot the name of that vessel, not the Artemis, the one a few months before that. I
Right.
think it's Sunita Williams.
Where they stayed longer than they meant to. That
Yes.
right.
So in that, the fact that she ran the marathon, I was just like, wow, her body could take that.
Yes. Yeah, I
Kudos
know.
to her.
I would have thought it would take a little longer to get acclimated, to regain full muscle strength but yeah,
Mm.
kudos to her. That
Yeah, yeah. So I was shocked to see that. I was shocked to see Chelsea Clinton had run. I think I've heard that she's done it before, but I didn't hear that she would be running. So that was great that she got to get over the finish line. Um, and then, ironically, I know this isn't about a woman, but the fact that I saw a man in a suit, I didn't personally see this when I was there, but I caught it on the news. There was someone that came from Providence, Rhode Island, and entered the marathon and ran the whole thing in a suit.
I missed that. I missed
Oh my gosh.
that. I know. I don't know where I was when I guess my station didn't find it that noteworthy. But
Yeah.
wow, that is something. But were you aware, were you conscious of, was it very evident that there were a lot more women running this year? Or did
You
did you not see anything that made you say, wow, there's a lot of women.
Ironically, I did not. That's why I was so glad that you're covering this on the show because when I was there with my friend, we had been able to see some of the runners shortly after they came across the finish line, and most of them were men.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave you like a metallic kind of blanket that you fold over yourself to keep you warm when
Yeah.
you finish. I
Right.
guess that's so your muscles don't tense up.
Right.
And we kept seeing the men with the blankets walk by us, and we would say congratulations, and we'd see they have their medals. And we were looking at each other like, where are all the women,
Right.
But like you said, the men finish faster, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in most cases because of what you mentioned. And we did ultimately see a few women, but initially we saw only men. So that was interesting.
Yes. And I think it's also interesting that a lot of the women are who run the marathon are not necessarily interested or even considering that they might win, but are more
Mm.
focused on completing the marathon because they're running for a foundation or a specific cause, right? Or
Right,
some specific cause that is medical or whatever, and their goal is just to finish it and not to be the first or second or even the 10th, right, to cross the line. So I think
right.
that's part of it as well.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I didn't even think about that at the time when I was wondering where the women are. They're kind of some of them, yes, are competing hard to get to the point where they're beating a personal best time or having a challenge that they want to beat a certain record.
Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right. I did want to ask you something because this is funny. This is a little math problem that I've written down because I used to run. And when you're running competitively, you want to get a certain time when you're trying to, finish a race.
Hmm.
And you said the woman who won in 2 hours and about 18 minutes, right?
Right.
Um,
Right. We're talking about Sharon.
okay.
Sharon. Yeah.
Yes. So I say that that's 138 minutes. You might want to write this down, but I don't know if you could do it in your head. I have it all written down.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
you'll find this kind of
Okay. Yeah.
funny. Okay.
Hmm.
So you take that 138 minutes and divide it by 26 miles, and you are at about 5.3 minutes per mile, right? And
No.
I'm saying all of this because I'm trying to get everybody to understand the pace that these runners are going.
I know. I appreciate
Okay.
I appreciate you sharing that with all of us who are viewing and listening because you've made it very noteworthy. And I mean, how can you? I can't even think that in 5 minutes I can run a mile.
Right.
I
Right.
can,
And the thing is this. So when you're running this mile, right, imagine yourself on a track, on a 400-meter track, like a regular high school track.
right.
You have to go around that track 4 times, 4 laps to make 1 mile.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to to do that in 5.3 minutes, that means that each lap you've got to run about a minute and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's almost sprinting every lap because in order for you to qualify for like a state championship for most I don't know, track events,
Right.
I think and this isn't the collegiate level, but I think you have to run about 60 seconds per lap. So if you're going to do a 400-meter dash and want to win so that you can qualify for like a state championship, you're running about 60 seconds for that one lap.
Mm-hmm.
Now these people aren't full sprinting when they're doing a marathon, but they almost are if they're running each of those laps at a minute and a half
Well, I
because you have to run a minute and a half to do 5.3 minutes per mile.
right. And I think it's incredible, but I do know, I don't know the specifics, and I was actually hoping someone I knew could give me the specifics. But there is a list of things that every person who is in the marathon that they have to meet, and and they have to qualify, right, to be in this
Hmm.
marathon. And part of the qualifications is that throughout the year, like people are applying now for next year, right? And they
Mm.
are required, they're given recommendations on, training for the event, and things that they should become at least um, good at, very good at. And sprinting,
Hmm.
I do happen to know, is one of those things. So
Ah.
so they recommend things that if they're athletically inclined, that they should sprint and um, and do, work toward the 800-meter, right, for timing versus the
Hmm.
400-meter. And I wanted to have that list of all the recommendations, right, for
Mm.
things that would allow them to build the strength, the physical strength and speed needed to consider being competitive, and for the longevity of the race, right? But
Sure.
I cannot even begin to imagine that in 5 minutes I
Yeah.
could. I I just can't even imagine it. I cannot. But I have to admit that one time I was driving and someone was running alongside of a highway, and they were going at a good clip, and they passed my car, and I thought, wow. And I remember thinking they
Mhm.
must be practicing for the marathon, and it was just a joke,
Mm.
but to me, but it could have been true. But I thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
some
those.
people's gotten good at it.
I,
Yeah.
I thank you for breaking it down into 138 minutes, and then letting everyone know. I appreciate it that these are people who won this. The both of these individuals who won this marathon were running at the rate of 5 miles. I mean, 1 mile every 5 minutes. I can't even. It's so hard for me to wrap my mind around that in 5 minutes that
Yeah.
could happen.
Right, right. And I'm going to challenge myself, not that I'm ever going to do that, but if I run 4 laps around a track just to see how long it takes me, right? And then you have to do that, you know, so many times, right? I think I
Hmm.
also looked at it as you have to do 104 laps around the track in order to run the 26 miles. So you're not just jogging the laps, you've got to really be going at that fast pace. And that, I don't know that I could ever do.
Right.
So kudos to the women and all the runners who could.
I admire everyone who crosses the finish line, whether they do it in 2 hours, 3 hours, or 8 hours.
Yes,
I applaud them
right.
all because I can't even get 2.6 miles, let alone 26. That's a lot. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's quite an event. But I am glad that there are a significant number of women competing. And the good news is that even though Sharon Lokedi might have won, there were several, other women who were right behind her, not too
Ah,
far. Yeah, and that just lets you know this is a serious race. So
right.
there
That's
are women
awesome.
doing some awesome things, but I am just amazed that the more time goes on, the more women who participate, the more women who are running exceptionally fast speeds to finish these marathons.
Mm,
I'm proud to be a woman.
fast pace.
And as far as I'm
Me too.
concerned, every one of them are winning women that that do
Yes,
that. Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, I want to
So
thank you
yeah,
for calling and giving us that information. I appreciate it.
oh, my pleasure. I wanted to share. I wanted to also make sure my math sounded right. And if you think so, good.
I was listen, I was dividing while you were talking, so it was right.
Oh, good. Okay.
So it was accurate.
Oh,
But so thank you so
all right.
much. Thank you for
Thank
calling in.
you.
Have a great
Great
evening.
topic.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So I appreciate the caller that sharing. Again, it boggles one's mind that someone can run a mile in 5 minutes. When you're in a car, it doesn't seem that far, but when you're using your 2 feet instead, that's a quick speed. Uh, I don't know if the name Mildred Didrikson Zaharias uh, means anything to any of you, but maybe some of you know Mildred Babe Didrikson Zaharias because she was very well known for 82 golf tournaments that she won throughout her career. But before she became a golf star, so to speak, she was a track star first. She was determined to compete in the Olympics, but she didn't have the resources. She didn't have the training. She didn't have the support. She didn't have the finances. But she, regardless of what she had, she trained around her neighborhood. She literally would leap over hedges and bushes and sprint up and down the streets so that when the 1932 Olympics came, she qualified for 5 events, but women weren't allowed to participate in a couple of those events she qualified for. They were only allowed to participate in 3 events per Olympics. And so the 3 that she participated in, she won gold in javelin, and she won gold in the 80-meter hurdles, and she broke a record in both events. Yes, Mildred Babe, as they called her, Didrikson Zaharias. Again, I that name looked so familiar to me, and it was because of golf tournaments. 82 golf tournaments she won in her career. But she also was first known for the 1932 Olympics, winning 2 gold medals, one in javelin, one in 80-meter hurdles, and breaking records. Now, I know you know this name, the name of Wilma Rudolph. She was running as an anchor leg, an American Wilma Rudolph. She crossed the finish line in Italy to win the women's 400-meter relay in 1960 at the 1960 Summer Olympics that was held in Rome. And though she was told at a young age she would never walk properly because of polio, Wilma Rudolph was the first American woman to win 3 track and field gold medals in a single Olympics. Rudolph survived polio and scarlet fever, which forced her to wear leg braces until she was 11. And the doctors kept telling her that walking would hardly be possible for her, let alone running. But by the time she was in high school, she was named All American in basketball and was scouted by Tennessee State University track and field coaches to run at the collegiate level. At 16, she won a bronze medal in the 1956 Olympics. She won that bronze medal for the 400 meters. The following year, the following Olympics that was held in 1960, she won 3 gold medals in the 100-meter dash, the 200-meter, and the 400-meter. And as I mentioned before, as she was running, but she was the anchor leg, she crossed the finish line and won the women's 400-meter relay at the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome. And after she retired from running, she continued to promote the sport because she became an assistant director for Chicago Mayor Daley's Youth Foundation, which was an organization created to encourage and support girls' track and field programs. And so she became the assistant director for that. Again, an amazing thing. A child who grew up and yet survived polio and scarlet fever, wore leg braces, but by the time she was in high school, an All American, um, played uh, uh, basketball, did track and field in college, and then at the age of 16 won a bronze medal in the 1956 Olympics, 400 meters. So you never know. You never say never, and you never give up. What amazing things these women do. Arlene Piper was a runner, a mother, and a gym owner. She wanted to promote her husband's Colorado Springs business, and so she had a little segment of it called Arlene's Health Studio. And she couldn't think of a better way to promote the business and the health studio than to be noticed in running the Pikes Peak Marathon. Her daughter, Kathy, who was 9, was with her for half the race. And this race went up and down a summit. So she sped up and down the summit, not knowing that she had just made history as the first woman to officially finish a marathon in the United States. So while we see all these women who complete the 26-mile marathon in Boston, this woman, Arlene Piper, is the first woman to officially finish a marathon in the US. And it was only when a historian contacted her in 2009 that she realized the magnitude of her accomplishment. She didn't even know that. And so after she was contacted in 2009, she has attended the Pikes Peak Marathon to take part in the ceremonies with competitors gushing over her because she's like a celebrity. She made it all possible. She was the first to do it. And in 2019, a week before the race, a group of women celebrated the 60th anniversary of Piper's achievement. And they dressed in what she wore that day in 1959, a white sleeveless blouse, white shirt, shorts, and a headscarf. And all of the women wore that and went running up Pikes Peak. Thank you, Arlene, for being the first woman to officially finish a marathon. I'm going to take a quick break. I have to do this for one of our sponsors, so don't go too far. We will be
At Portal to Hope, we're here to help victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking crimes. We provide support, resources, and hope to those who need it most. We believe that everyone deserves to live a life free from violence. If you or someone you know is in danger, please reach out for help. Call us at 781-338-7678. We offer a variety of services including counseling, legal aid, job assistance, and housing support. We also work to raise awareness about these issues and to advocate for change. Together, we can create a world where everyone is safe and free from violence. Portal to Hope is here for you.
And again, I'd like to encourage you to participate in tonight's show. You can call in at 781-384-5587 or email by emailing me, Regina, at rgbinternetradio.com. I've been sharing with you a little bit about women who are runners. And that's a result of the Boston Marathon being held this week. And I'm here in New England. That's a big event for us. And so we've been talking about several women who have made a difference in not only running, but track and field events, athletic events. Now, I would like to believe that many people know the name and the story of Catherine Schweitzer because she was the first woman to run the 1967 Boston Marathon with an official race number. Do you believe that? 1967. It took that long for a woman to actually be assigned a race number. So that was Catherine Schweitzer, but not many people are aware that the Boston Marathon was run unofficially by a woman all before that. And her name is Roberta Bobby Gibb. She tried to register for the 1966 Boston Marathon and she received a rejection letter from the race organizers. And they claimed that they couldn't accept her because a female runner was a liability. That was in 1967. She was a liability, but she was not discouraged. Roberta Bobby Gibb was dressed in an oversized sweatshirt and men's running shorts, and she went and registered and joined the 1966 Boston Marathon. Right after the gun was fired, she just jumped in there and finished. She finished the marathon in 3 hours, 21 minutes, and 40 seconds. Good for you, Bobby. Good for you. But that we don't want to take away from Catherine Schweitzer because she's a well-known name in running history, not just with the Boston Marathon, but in running history. She was the first recorded, as I said, she actually received a number to run in the race. She was the first recorded woman to run the Boston Marathon. And again, that was a year after Bobby pretended to be a man and jumped in and ran the marathon. At the time, there was nothing in the Boston rule book when Catherine Schweitzer ran that explicitly stated women could not compete. During registration, she signed her name as K.V. Schweitzer, which is how she unknowingly slipped past the race organizer's notice. And it was during this race that the infamous photo of race director Jock Semple, there's a photo of him trying to push Schweitzer off the course. That photo was taken. He wasn't aware of it. He reportedly shouted at her, "Get the hell out of my race and give me those numbers." But her boyfriend blocked him as he was trying to pull her off the course. Her boyfriend, Tom Miller. And Schweitzer never intended on running the race to make a stance for women's rights from him. She resolved from then on to fight for other female athletes who faced the same discrimination. So we have Catherine Schweitzer to thank for taking a stand for women being able to compete in the Boston Marathon. And we have Bobby Gibb, Roberta Bobby Gibb, to thank for actually being the first female runner in the Boston Marathon. I don't know if you are familiar with a name of a person called Lisa Linda Land, but Lisa came up with an idea for a jog bra because women had to run and exercise while wearing underwire bras. So it wasn't comfortable. And Lisa Lindeland was an inventor and an entrepreneur. And she thought, as she had tried to do some running, that it was extremely painful So she partnered with a theater costume designer, Polly Smith, and her assistant, Hinda Schreiber, to come up with a more comfortable alternative. So in 1975, the jog bra was born, and it was constructed of two jock straps sewn together. And it soon became a staple within the women's running movement. And the original prototype can be seen in the Smithsonian Institute. So I applaud Lisa for making running a more bearable and more comfortable, especially if you're going to run 26 miles in the Boston Marathon by creating the jog bra. Thank you, Lisa, Linda Land. There's another name. Her name is Greta Weitz. And Greta Weitz crossed the finish line in 1979 and won the Legs Mini Marathon, which was in Central Park, New York. That was 1979. She finished that was considered a pre, I guess, introduction for women to participate, because legs, as you know, is a type of pantyhose for women. And she was in that marathon to win it. She actually finished her first New York marathon in 1978, a year before that. She crossed the finish line, and she took her shoes off and announced, "I'll never do this stupid thing again." But a year later, she ran the Legs Mini Marathon and was the first woman to run a marathon faster than 2.5 hours. And she wasn't done. From 1978 to 1988, Greta Waitz won 9 New York City marathons. And she also won the London Marathon in 1983 and in 1986. She's known to be one of the first dominant marathoners, female marathoners of the modern era, and she has remained an international star of endurance athletes everywhere. And to think, even though she said, "I'll never do this stupid thing again," she went on and on and on to finish quite a few marathons and win quite a few. Nine in New York City alone. That's amazing. The determination of these women just amazes me. I want to make sure, because we took so much time in the beginning, that we get another one of our sponsors in. So again, don't go too far, but I would love to hear from you. So contact me, call or email me. We'll be right back.
Life can be unpredictable, and when those moments occur, you want the assurance that your family and property are protected. Sabatino Mastrocola Insurance Agency provides insurance coverage and security for every situation: home, life, flood, car, personal, or property. We're here to help you protect what matters most: your future. We are a full-service insurance agency providing experienced experts who speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English to assist you in acquiring the type of insurance coverage you need. That's the Sabatino Mastrocola promise. Contact us at 617-387-7466 or on our website, www.sabatino-ins.com. Get peace of mind today for uncertain tomorrows.
And we're back with the Winning Women Talk Show. And tonight we're talking about women athletes, in particular runners of marathons. I don't know how many of you recall the name of Joan Benoit. She was celebrated winning the women's marathon during the games of the 23 Olympiad in 1984 Summer Olympics. Although most of her success was capturing the World Majors 6-star medal at the 2024 Tokyo Marathon, Joan Benoit Samuelson started her record-altering career by winning the 1979 Boston Marathon, if you're saying, I know that name. 1979, she won the Boston Marathon, and she was relatively an unknown runner. And a few years later, she set a course record in the 1983 Boston Marathon. And no one beat her time for 11 years. That means it took all the way to 1994 for someone to beat her record. She won the Falmouth Road Race 6 times, and then she became the first female Olympic marathon champion in the 1984 Olympics. And she has made great strides through the years. She's written books. She actually founded the Beach to Beacon 10K road race. She does pacing cycling, and she actually pace cycled the former champ Lance Armstrong, and she's still running to this very day. So that's a name, as I said before, Joan Benoit. That's a name that in the Boston area, people know, people remember. Do you remember this name, Tegla LaRoupe? In 1994, remember, 11 years after Joan Benoit's record, Tegla LaRoupe became the first Black African woman to win a major marathon when she finished the New York City Marathon with a time of 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 37 seconds. She returned in 1995 and won again, and then she broke the world record at the 1997 Rotterdam Marathon. And then a few years later, she broke her own record in the 1999 Berlin Marathon. But beyond her athletic abilities, LaRoupe is an ambassador for young female runners. She founded the Tegla LaRoupe Peace Foundation in 2003, and her hope is to inspire peace within her communities in Kenya and to create athletic opportunities for young girls there. So in 2016, as a result of her work, she was honored with the United Nations Person of the Year Award. And to this day, she's continued that work in promoting peace. Amy Palmiero Winters is a current record holder for the fastest Chicago marathon by a below knee amputee, male or female. So she is a below the knee amputee, and she holds the fastest marathon record for male or female for the Chicago Marathon. And while this is an incredible feat, that was only the beginning for Palmiero Winters. Amy, in 2009, placed first in the female category of the Heartland 100 mile. I can't even think of walking, running, biking, even driving 100 miles is an endeavor. But the 100-mile, making her the first amputee to win an ultra marathon. And she continued on to compete in the 1AU 24-hour ultra marathon world championship, the Western States Endurance Run, the Badwater Ultra Marathon, and most recently, the 2019 Marathon des Sables. Wow. I can't. 100 miles with a below knee amputee, female, who just did it like it was nothing. Sarah Attar. In 2012, the Saudi Arabian Olympic Committee was accused of breaking the spirit of the Olympics Charter pledge for equality by banning women from competing in the London Games. But in response, the male-dominated team put 2 women forward, Wujdan Sharkani for judo and Sarah Attar for track and field. Neither of the women technically qualified, but they were given wild cards in order to compete. Attar was undeniably unprepared for the women's 800 meters as she was given only 3 weeks to train and limited resources to do so. But because she had the opportunity and the men were the ones supporting this, she finished last with a time of 2 hours 44 minutes and 90 9 15 seconds, I'm sorry. But her representation and her bravery was what was most noted that day. 3 weeks to be ready to run 800 meters. And she did, I think she did an awesome job. And then Camille Herron, I'm sure you've heard that name. She faced a lot of challenges. She had central auditory processing disorder, which was an extra bone in her foot. And the 1999 Oklahoma tornado devastated her home and community. But all these hardships led her to begin running in high school. And every Sunday, she would take a long run to celebrate life and appreciate the good and bad. And after she graduated from Oregon State University with a Master of Science degree in exercise and sports science, she honed in on competitive running and became an icon in the ultra world. She's the only athlete to win all three of the 1AU Ultra Road World Championships, and she became the third American to win the Conrads Marathon in 2017. In 2022, she officially became the youngest woman to run 100,000 miles. That's what I said. 100,000 miles in her lifetime. And in 2023, she smashed the world record for 48 hours of running, spanning over 270.5 miles. She ran for 48 hours for over 270.5 miles. So this has made her the first woman to hold an overall male or female American record. And of course, our current marathon winner, two-time winner, Sharon Lokedi. She came through 26.2 miles in 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 51 seconds. And so it's the fourth fastest time ever by a woman in Boston, and it marked the 18th win by a Kenyan woman. And so we can't say enough about women in sports and women in athletics. But I gotta give you this: as even though Lokedi has broken records in her own record, Jess McLean was the best American finisher in fifth place. She crossed in fifth place for all of it, not just women, but fifth place, 2 hours, 20 minutes, 49 seconds, which is the fastest time for a U.S. woman in Boston's race history. And so we have some amazing women who are winning women who have been winning the race for a long time, in not only in their careers, but in their endeavors to make a difference, not only in their own life, but in the lives of others. And so I want to thank you for spending time with me tonight and for listening to me talk about women in the history of running. And so I hope that you will join us again and be here next Thursday, same time, same place. I actually have a guest next week, so don't miss it. But in the meantime, thank you for being with us. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. And don't forget to love somebody.